Hello, everyone, and welcome to China AMC's Tech Innovation Deep Talk. I'm your host, Richard Penn. The global pharmaceutical and healthcare world is changing fast, and China's innovative healthcare industry is growing like never before. It's not just bringing better health to 1.4 billion people, it's also making a big difference in how diseases are treated around the world. Today, China is the second largest healthcare market globally, worth over $1 trillion. But here's the key point. China isn't just buying healthcare products anymore, it's making them, and the innovation is speeding up even faster. In the first half of 2025 alone, Chinese biotech deals made up 44% of the world's total. We are seeing a big shift. Chinese companies are not just manufacturing for the global, they are creating new innovations for it. In addition, China's large number of patients gives a unique advantage for clinical trials, helping new medical tools come out quicker. This isn't just a regular growth. China's healthcare sector is now a major player on the global stage. So, how we make the most of this historic opportunity? Today, we are honored to have a special guest to help us figure that out. Please welcome Mei Li, Board Secretary of Mindray Medical, one of the world's top medical device companies, and a great example of Chinese innovation going global. From patient monitors to ultrasound systems, Mindray's products are used in healthcare facilities in more than 190 countries. Hey Mei, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Richard, for having me. It's great to be here.
So can you introduce yourself and what kind of company Mindray is?
Mindray Medical's board secretary, and I've been with the company for 18 years. And it's been an exciting journey, being part of a success story. When I joined the company, the revenue size was about 300 million. And we were pretty small internationally. Today, with a revenue size of over 5 billion, and actually more than 50% of the revenues coming from overseas markets and operating in more than 40 countries. It's now a global powerhouse in medical device world.
And Mindray spent around 33 years to reach $5 billion revenue. For global companies like Siemens and Philips, they spend more than 100 years to grow the business from zero to $5 billion revenue. So Mindray's revenue growth are significant in the last 3 decades. So what's your strategy, growth strategy in the next 10 years?
Yeah, sure. This is China speed. If I have to say one reason to explain our growth for the last 3 decades, I would say consistent R&D spending and innovation. So, this will continue to be an important growth strategy for us for the next 10 years. We will continue to invest about 10% revenue into R&D every year to make sure that we continue to improve the technologies, continue to roll out new products, and address more, markets. And important growth driver for the next 10 years for us is international expansion. So today, more than half of the revenue is coming from overseas markets. I think in 10 years, this number could be anywhere between 60% to even 70%. And the emerging markets among all international markets are going to be the faster growing regions for us. The emerging markets are still undergoing very fast infrastructure build-up, and we have a more comprehensive operating platform in emerging markets as well. Another very important growth strategy will be our consumable business. And, the traditional capital equipment business is being rejuvenated by the recent development in IT application and in AI, and especially the large language model launches that we have completed over the last 1+ years are really helping to make sure that our future capital equipment business can still see good growth.
It's very impressive. You mentioned about the natural language model and Mindray adopt natural language model to your medical equipment technology. I read some news about the competition in this industry. For instance, some Chinese local players, they also launch some high-end AI-driven ultrasound. On the other hand, some global players in China, they also adopt the local supply chains to lower the cost. In the meanwhile, the global companies, they also have AI embedded in their device.
Right.
So in the future, how you compete with local players and global players?
Right. I mean, there's nothing new, right? Since day one, since the day we were born, it was a world dominated by the international players. In China's medical device market, if you look at, the top 10 players in terms of revenues, right, we are the only Chinese company. The other 9 companies are all international names. So it's competition with international players is nothing new to us. We've been doing that for the last 30 plus years, and literally in every major market that we compete in. And I mean, the formula for competing with the international players to leverage our advantages as a local player who understand local customers better, who are more eager to meet the unique demands of local customers. I have many examples of unique innovations that we came up with for China market only, for emerging market only, or for U.S. market, Europe market only. But I think the secret sauce is to leverage our unique insight in local customers. In competing with other Chinese companies, I mean, obviously it's slightly different. If you look at, most of our Chinese companies Chinese peers over the last 30 years, most of them compete in the mid or low-end segment, compete on price, compete fiercely on cost. And it is, it's good for us to stay competitive in the mid and low-end segment and compete with these Chinese companies so that we keep cost one of the advantages. So it is a slightly different game to compete with other local companies. We do have similar advantages in cost. We do have, we have similar insight into local customer demand. What we have been doing differently from most Chinese companies over the last 3 decades is consistently investing 10% of revenue into R&D. And we've been doing that for the last 30 plus years. Then the result is, accumulation of innovation and technologies help us climb up the value chain. It is, I think, in today's market in China, it's very common in any particular product segment that we are the only Chinese company competing with the international names in the high-end customer segment. So I guess that's one thing we did that set us apart. And the other thing is, we went international very early on. We started to compete in UK in year 2000, in the US market in year 2004, went public in US in 2006. So the international side of the business really helped us gain unique insight. And I think that's a major differentiator from the other Chinese companies. And lastly, I think, we have been able to acquire international targets over the course of the last 20 years or so in the US, in Europe. And, this really helped us expand into new markets and then new product areas. I guess, that made us a very unique Chinese company with such a broad, market coverage and a product portfolio today.
It's very impressive. And Mindray's overseas revenue account for 50% of your total sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably it's one of the highest number and among Chinese competitors.
Mm-hmm.
So my questions regarding your going global strategy. So right now, overseas revenue account for 50%. In the future, your target is almost 70% of the revenue will come from overseas markets. So what's your strategy to compete in the different regions? For instance, in developing country versus developer countries, what's the different strategy?
That is a very good question. It is our ambition to continue to expand, revenue contribution from overseas markets. And for the last 5 years or so, our international revenue contribution has come up to more than, this year, more than 50% now. I think, in the foreseeable future, we'll likely see international revenue continue to become a bigger portion, especially in emerging markets. And emerging markets nowadays account for 2/3 of our international revenues, growing faster than developed markets. There are many reasons for that. One is underlying market growth itself is higher, right? Equally importantly, we have pretty comprehensive operating platform in emerging markets. We understand the customer demand there better than our peers, I believe. And we have a product portfolio that meet the demand in emerging markets better as well. Our sales model in China has been, selling through distributors. And obviously, we've been pretty successful in China. So we are trying to replicate our experience in China in managing distributors in emerging markets where, we also sell through distributors. So I think a lot of the experience that we have gained in China market will help us compete effectively in emerging markets.
So may I ask the margins in the emerging markets, the product sold in emerging markets versus the product sold domestically?
Right.
So which part the margin is higher? And we know emerging markets are resources constrained.
Yeah.
And so what's your product offering
Yeah.
in the emerging markets in terms of pricing, affordability, and performance?
Right. Margins are, I would say margins right now in emerging markets are actually higher than China. The China market has gone through a downward cycle in pricing over the last 3-4 years with, various policies, DRG or VBP. And, emerging markets, if you scratch the surface, the success formula is the same everywhere. It's innovation and it's, value created through innovation, right? And, customers are willing to share the value you created for them with you if they recognize the value, right? So this is a very recent example since you are asking about emerging markets. So we have installed our MT8000 laboratory automation line in one of the largest hospitals in southeast Romania. After we installed the automation line, operating cost of the lab has decreased by 34%. It is very significant. And the reason why operating costs were dropped so significantly is because we have streamlined the workflow and consolidated a lot of different tests onto the same platform so that, a lot of the operating time is reduced and the number of tests produced by the lab greatly increased, right? And we have also created very intelligent quality control management system, which help reduce error and reduce waste. So as a result, the hospital is very happy to give us, reasonable price. I think this is one of the examples how we avoid price competition in emerging markets.
It's good to hear that.
Yeah, although customers can be financially constrained. Yeah.
My follow-up question regarding the brand image in the emerging markets. So the hospitals in the emerging markets, when they look at Mindray, so what kind of companies in their mind?
Right.
So it's in line with Siemens, GE, or inferior in terms of the price or performance. So what kind of brand image?
Fast innovator. I think we did an internal survey, actually not emerging market, but in Europe. among, a group of our customers and asked them, what would they compare us to in the auto industry? Will we be viewed more as a, Toyota, BMW, or Tesla? I think this is very representative of, customers' perception of Mindray in those markets nowadays.
So Tesla is the medical industry of Mindray. So
Yeah.
another question regarding U.S. strategy in the developed countries. The revenue growth from developed countries is not as high as emerging markets.
Yeah.
So can you tell us your strategy, how you compete with the global giants in the developed countries? As we know, the hurdles to compete with global giants in the developed countries will be much difficult comparing to the China market.
Right.
And so can you tell me what's the major barriers and how you tackle this problem?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in developed market or mature markets, it's the technology threshold is significantly higher. So in most developed markets, for example, U.S. or Western European countries, we don't sell the whole portfolio that we carry in emerging markets or in China. Yeah. So it's a cherry picking process. That's one. The other is, it's not just about the product itself. It's also, the service, the clinical support. So, first you need to have team on the ground, right? So in the U.S. nowadays, we have about 700 people on the ground, service people, clinical support, and middle and back office as well. So, it is important to have this operation on the ground. Europe is the same thing. Especially in countries like US and a lot of the Western European countries, you have to sell directly into hospitals. It is important that you have this team on the ground. We first gained this team on the ground through a few acquisitions. So in 2008, we acquired New Jersey-based Datascope, a patient monitor company in the US. And later on, we acquired Zonari. It's Mountain View, California-based ultrasound company. So these are sort of the foundation. And then on top of that, we started to expand, add a lot of personnel. So today, in the U.S. market is the second largest sales country for us outside of China, and we have the most people in the U.S. market as well. So that that's one thing that you need to do. And I would say in today's environment, I guess it's more difficult for a Chinese company to do that, especially through acquisitions. So I guess we were lucky enough that we did that very early on.
So Mary has very successfully in terms of M&A. Historically, you successfully acquired Datascope, and recently you also acquired Zonal and HepTest.
Yeah.
So can you share with us what's your experience and lessons you learned from these overseas acquisitions? And after you acquire the company, can these companies become more competitive and stay more entrepreneurship?
Yeah. We have done quite a few acquisitions in the US and more recently in Europe. Our experience has been, I would say, very good generally with all these developed market acquisitions. And they have become the invaluable assets of the group. I guess one of the things that we did right was to get to know these companies, the core teams, very well early on. In the case of Zonari and Datascope and HepTest, we got to know the company, the teams, more than 10 years ago, before the acquisition. So this allowed us to understand and appreciate the unique value, their innovation of the teams very well, and also to understand the constraints that need to be removed to realize full potential of the companies. And I'll take the most recent example of HepTest. After acquisition, both teams together aligned strategic goals, and Mindray started to invest a lot of funding and human resources in expanding high-test R&D capabilities. So when we bought them 4 or 5 years ago, high-test was specialized in cardiovascular applications. And today, high-test capabilities have expanded into thyroid, hormone, infectious disease, tumor marker, etc.
My follow-up question is regarding R&D. And Mindray has around $5 billion revenue, spend 10% of the revenue on R&D, roughly $500 million. It's compared to global peers. Global peers roughly around $20 to $30 billion revenue. R&D is around $2 to $3 billion. So in terms of total amount invested in R&D, Mindray is still much smaller than global giants. And you told us then Mindray's image in the US or in the Western country like Tesla. So how can you explain your R&D strategy? How can you make your technology more competitive or more innovative given the constraint of your total amount of R&D? Are you guys spend more efficiently or smartly?
In medical device, it really depends on which specific product segment you compete in, right? So we are in anesthesia, a lot of the patient monitoring life support segments, the ultrasound segments, and in IVD. And a lot of the global giants that you mentioned are probably in very different product segments, which means their total addressable market is bigger, and hence the revenue size is bigger, and they have more total R&D spending. For us, I think we have been sticking to the 10% R&D spending ratio for many years, and this is a pretty high ratio, I would say, in the industry. And with the 10% R&D spending, and most of it is done in China. So efficiency for the last many years has been much higher in China as well. So the net result of technologies and innovation was a lot more. So that's I guess that's how we are able to, through merely 30 years, get to where we are today. Yeah.
So can we say in that way, because Mindray spend consistently 10% of the revenue on the R&D, and mainly in China, and in China, as we know, the R&D efficiency should be higher than most of the countries, mainly because of engineering industry and the whole supply chains. Everything have economy of scale. So that's the key reasons.
If you ask me to single out one reason, I would say that.
Okay. Yeah. Understood. So another question is regarding intellectual property. And we know Mindray more than 50% of revenue from overseas markets. Around 1/3 from developer markets. And we know in the developer markets, the IP is very important. So how can you manage these IP risks? And what's your IP strategy?
Well, I mean, principally speaking, we respect other companies' IPs while we protect and create our own, right? So we have built a patent portfolio that allowed us to compete effectively in all major markets globally, including US and Europe. I don't think there's anything we do that is very different from our international peers. I mean, there is no way around being compliant to laws and rules, wherever you operate.
So far, no any big risks in the IP.
Well, I mean, it is common to have disputes in our line of business. But our patent portfolio has been a major protection for us.
Okay, good to know. So my next question is regarding. So let's go back to your China business. As you mentioned, in the last several years, mainly because of the volume-based procurement, Mindray provide more and more affordable medical equipment, so which means the price probably not very high, But obviously, I mean, the whole society get benefit. But do you think the profitability of Mindray has been negatively impacted by this volume-based procurement? And how can you improve your profitability domestically over the long term?
Well, I mean, the answer is again innovation and value creation for our customers. Chinese customers are no different. So it's about whether you can provide unique value through your innovation or not over the long run. Short-term wise, yes, there are policy impact. The good news is, VBP, DRG, all these policies are nearing the end of for implementation. So I think, impact on the financials coming to an end as well. At the same time, we view these, policies presenting unique opportunities for us as well. And it has changed customer behaviors in China. Generally speaking, Chinese hospitals have become more cost-sensitive, value-sensitive. It is not a bad thing for us. We want our customers to be shrewd buyers, okay? And the other behavior change of Chinese customers we have noticed over the last few years is, a lot of them are looking at, medical devices more holistically. So they are looking at for example, the benefits of IT applications and AI applications together with the performance of the capital equipment themselves. This gives us a competitive advantage because we are, and I think we'll continue to be a leader in IT and AI application in medical devices.
Another question regarding M&A.
Yeah.
And Mindray has been very successful historically. And you have ambitious plan right now, overseas only account for 50%, in the future 70% of revenue.
Sure.
So is there any possibilities or highly possible that you will continue to acquire overseas companies? And what kind of companies in your radar?
I want to first emphasize that we have been mainly relying on organic growth, on internal R&D development. But yes, we've been leveraging our expertise in M&A, especially in international markets, as well as a complement to our internal capabilities. Going forward, it is still, one of the things that we will continue to do. I mean, M&A it has been an effective tool for us to expand quickly into new markets or into new product areas. So, there's no reason we'll stop doing that.
Okay. So geopolitical tension, I think, is unavoidable for most of the companies in this industry.
Yeah.
So how Mindray to mitigate the risk in terms of geopolitics?
Yeah. Well, one has to be geopolitics sensitive nowadays to run a global business. So we've been navigating the global market, being fully aware as a Chinese company, you will inevitably run into, geopolitical noises here and there. So what we have been blessed with is, as a medical device company, I think, it is less sensitive. People focus a lot on, the value we create, the help that we offer to alleviate the heavy burden on the healthcare systems in many markets, right? Europe, US, emerging markets. I mean, everybody is really overburdened with healthcare. So it does, I think it does help as a medical device company, as an innovator, that come up with unique solution to help with overburdened healthcare systems. But I think, one of the things that we've been doing is trying to become more local wherever we go, right? So over the last 3 years or so, we have established, for example, local production in more than 10 countries. it is not just to avoid tariff, but it really helped us to open new market segments in those markets. And I think in a lot of these markets, it's not just to have local operations, local production. It's not just a risk-averse initiative, but it's also a commercially viable option. For example, our recent acquisition of Dices, it's a German IVD company, gave us reagent plants in multiple locations in Europe, in Southeast Asia, and in Latin. And these reagent plants really help us to solve the problem of being able to deliver time-sensitive reagent products locally, right? But coincidentally, it also helped us mitigate the geopolitical development in those markets over the last three years or so. So, we will continue to localize in major markets. And, it is to mitigate the geopolitical risk. But also, I think, as a Chinese company that aims to become a global leader in medical device, you have to be, a local player in most of these major markets anyways. Yeah.
So right now, we see more and more Chinese companies begin to go global, and you have done this 3 decades ago. So in terms of globalization, for instance, what's your specific strategy? What's the percentage of employees come from other countries? And in your board level and in the senior management team level, what's the percentage of non-Chinese passport holders? And in the local markets, the country head, what's the percentage of the country head are non-Chinese? This kind of localization, can you tell us more, give us more information about that?
Sure. It is a long journey. Okay, so obviously we started from pure Chinese company. To today, more than 50% of the revenue is coming from overseas market. We have over 60 overseas subsidiaries, about 3,000 employees, my colleagues, based outside of China.
Percentage-wise?
Percentage of a total employee size of 21,000.
21.
Yeah.
So only 15%.
Yeah.
Based in outside China.
Based outside of China.
And so majority of them are Chinese citizens.
No. Of the 3,000 colleagues that we have outside of China, 92% are local.
Okay. Good.
So, for example, we have 700 colleagues that are Americans in the U.S.
Because you acquire a company, Datascope and other.
Yeah. Well, we built on top of that, right? When we acquired Datascope, they have more than 300 people. Yeah. Now it's 700 in the U.S. Yeah.
And it's still disproportionate in terms of the foreign employees as a percentage of total employees versus your overseas revenue of total revenue.
Yeah. Because a lot of the R&D, a lot of the manufacturing is still done out of China. But you see, I mentioned earlier that we are accelerating in localization, right? So in the last 3 years alone, we have set up in more than 10 countries local production.
Okay.
And later on, there will be more functions that will be outside of China, right? So you will see that alongside our international expansion strategies, human resources, will also reflect the change.
Just now you talk about in the customers' perception, Mindray is more like a partner in the medtech industry. So my last question is, what's Mindray's vision in 2035? What kind of company you want to become?
Our vision has always been to better healthcare for all. And the mission for our generation of Mindray employees is to advance medical technologies to make healthcare more accessible. In the next 10 years or so, especially with the development of AI, we feel we are in a very good position to take on the ultimate challenge of solving the trilemma of efficiency, quality, and cost of the healthcare system.
May, before we wrap up, I want to take a step back and reflect on what we have covered today. Mindray is the largest med tech company in China. It's bigger than the next 5 companies combined together in terms of market cap and revenue. Emerging markets will become the biggest driver by focusing on value-based products. In the developed markets, Mindray are selling high-tech, cutting-edge technology products and build its own sales channel, locally hiring, and high-quality after-market service. Right now, Mindray spend more than $500 million R&D every year, not only focus on AI, but also the broad innovation across different segments. Mindray has its well-designed IP strategy. In addition, Mindray has a very good track record of overseas acquisitions. It also has very strong social responsibilities. In the recent 2 years, the revenue of Mindray has been flattened, mainly because volume-based procurement policy in China. However, we believe Mindray can re-accelerate in the next 10 years. We are seeing medical device designed and built in Shenzhen now trusted in operating rooms across Europe and North America. And we are witness companies like Mindray, once a challenger to establish the incumbents, now standing shoulder to shoulder with legacy players that have dominated this industry for decades. What strikes me most is the pace of change. This transformation didn't take a century. It happened in just 1 generation. For investors watching this space, the takeaway is clear. China's medtech sector is no longer about future potential. It's about current performance. And the companies leading this change are only just getting started. May, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing your very deep insight. This has been an incredibly valuable conversation. This is China AMC's Tech Innovation Deep Talk. Until next time.